properly for some reason, so we'll find out.
Let's see if these...
Indeed it does. So let's just go straight in with the jingle. Where are we? Yep, there we are. Yep, audio's coming through. Good. We're already off to a better start than last week.
That's always a good sign, I have to say. Now how the hell do I... Oh, what have I done here?
You're right. What's up?
That's it. Well, I've got a new pair of... I've got these very, very, like, I'd say sleek. They're not. There is a word for it. I've got this new pair of headphones that sort of like, you can't see them. They're discreet.
Ah, okay, discreet, kind of like, yeah, gotcha.
Right. So I've forgotten how to pair them with anything, which is not good.
Not ideal. No. Well, while you figure that out, I'm going to play the intro. Then, hopefully, by the time the intro's done, they will have magically paired. Alright, here we go. What happened there?
Not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it. I rang up Mendon always said he could make it.
Don't do this whole... Phil, Predator guy, always manages to do what he has to. He is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No. It was free of it.
I like from Rashad Mendon.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, and as the title of the show suggests, Midweek podcasts do still exist and you are lucky enough to have one today. You cannot see Chris at the moment for some reason, but I promise he is there on the Google Hangout. How's it going,
Hello.
Chris?
I'm here somewhere. There we go.
There he is, he's disappeared from the Matrix. That's cool. And he's gone again.
I was there, now I'm back. There we go. Hello.
Still a better technical start than we had to last week's podcast, as last week we were seen but not heard, which is the crucial part of being a podcast.
Indeed. Ever so slightly wrong there.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah. So we are officially into the second half of the season now, so we will review the last of the first half of the season's worth of games in week 7, and of course we'll then preview the start of the end, if that's one way you could possibly call it, for week 8's games, and we'll go straight into it with the league news. And for the league news, I need a jingle. Here it is. Please do comment along either on YouTube or the Facebook chat. We have that up in front of us, so we do like interacting with you in the show. Transactions, we'll start with those, as we don't. There's once again no hard-hitting COVID stuff that we have to cover at the moment. Anyway, there was a positive for the Texans, but nothing major as yet, which is nice to see. So transaction-wise, only one key one I picked out this week, Chris, and it was Chase Edmonds for CeeDee Lamb by the Detonators. Now, we would have picked this out anyway, given Kenyon Drake's injury, but the figure of $47, which we already know was a early morning mistake, let's call it, as it wasn't meant to be that much, but I think you could argue, much like my Mike Davis pickup, which was only $25, that the return you're getting is probably worth that amount. What do you think, Chris?
You'd hope so. An early morning mistake. I tell you, it sounds like how I was conceived, Nate. I don't really know how I start with that. It's a lot of money. And I mean, there's not many people who have that sort of budget to blow on such players.
Yeah, Ollie has got 10 left now. We do have obviously 3 more windows of the additional budget, but Ollie right now isn't sitting in the tier that receives nothing. So
yeah, there's not a great deal that's going to come back from that, I don't think. Look, if throughout the rest of the year that you're quite happy with with what you've got, then I don't think it's that much of a problem. However, for that sort of money, you would hope for a return. In fact, you would hope that the guy would play for you, and I think that he's going to. We've seen some other crazy big, transactions across the course of the year. I mean, the Naeem Hines $30 at the beginning of the season strikes me as one of those, and then they just get dropped without really being played. So I don't know if it's the most ridiculous pickup of the year so far, but it's certainly one that's it's certainly paying over the odds for a guy that's going to get some production, but possibly not that much production, certainly not for that long amount of time, but at a crucial time of the year. We don't forget that.
Yeah, so the verdict is he will be useful while he is useful, but for how long is that going to be?
If he was $20 less, then I wouldn't be even batting an eyelid. I'd be
very true, very true.
But yeah, that's half your budget across. That is a Phil-type move from Ollie there.
Indeed. Ben says on the YouTube comments, bargain, to which I'm going to pose you the question, Chris. Would you rather Chase Edmonds for $47 or Andy Dalton for $25?
I would have Chase Edmonds for 40 all day long. I mean, that's definitely an extravagant splurge.
That's one.
Jerry Jones-esque there from Ben. So.
Extravagant splurge. Was that also what happened with your parents' early morning mistake?
There's a mixture of both, I think.
We're off to a great start to the show here, guys. Just fantastic. So that was the only major one I picked up. Pat did add Deontay Johnson for $20-something as well. I don't think it warrants talking about. It's going to be Steelers receiver roulette as to which one of those guys goes off any week.
He's welcome to someone who is absolutely made of glass. He's great one week, and gets banged up for 3, and he's great for another. So,
sounds like he should be on my team. Sounds just like my kind of guy.
Yeah.
Trade block wise, so a few names dropped off for Ollie's team. I've assumed that he is no longer interested in trading, or he's dropped a player. So Ronald Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire are still in the trade block, and as far as I know, so is Deshaun Watson. For Gridiron Gang, Mike Davis still on the trade block. Pat's entire team, as far as I know, still on the trade block. Iksan has Raheem Mostert on the trade block, and we also have an entire team except DK Metcalf on the trade block from Bucking the Trend as well. Yes, I covered it, Ben. You don't have to comment. Ben also says I would pay $25 for an injured Andy Dalton. Well, that's exactly what you paid for. So
that's good business. I'm sure the spreadsheet told you to do that as well.
So we will just then go straight into it with last week's games then. So the marquee matchup was the one involving my team, so we will start there. It was Gridiron Gang against Bedetonators. Gridiron Gang and Bedetonators faced off in week 7. Both had been on a good run of late, sitting at 3-3 and a 2-game win streak, but only one would come out extending that streak, and that team was Bedetonators with another good day at 113 points. They moved to 4-3 and with a shot of being at the top of the division by the end of the day. Meanwhile, Gridiron Gang falls to 3-4. Looking down, Deshaun Watson had a good day again, 28 points. Ronald Jones just about got 10. Same for Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley 15. Edwards-Helaire one last good game perhaps with Bellintown with 12 points. And then the special teams, 14 for the kicker, Butker, and 24 for the football team. Wasn't all rosy though. They got a donut from Odell Beckham as he tore his ACL, as it would happen in the game, and he's out for the rest of the season. On the other side of the ball, DeAndre Swift and Kenny Golladay had decent days with 11 apiece. But the story, and the Chargers did got 11 as well, but the story was Tyler Lockett dropping an absolutely monster 38 points on Sunday Night Football, and Tyler Bass, kicker for the Bills, 23 points as well. But while that's the good side of the story, the bad side of the story is Cam Newton finishing the game with a negative 0.18 points, which really did cost Gridiron Gang the win in this game. History all-time between Gridiron Gang and Bedetonators is now 10-4 in favour of the Bedetonators. Chris, this was actually quite a spicy game for quite a few different reasons, wasn't it?
Yes, I look. You both effectively carried a player, and I suppose that's where we should start, because here I was on Sunday thinking to myself, well, he's going to play Cam, he's going to be there, He's going to do it. And then, I don't know. He's not going to play Cam. He's going to play Drew Brees. And then Cam turns up again. I just don't know why you would at the moment. Because New England suck.
I think more to the point is I've been reading some stuff. A guy who did some quite on the Patriots subreddit did the play-by-play coach review of the game, and it's just like Cam Newton is it's like night and day between, because we're not that long removed from when they played Seattle, and obviously he was insanely good, but obviously there's a key thing that happened in between now and then, which was COVID. And what we hear about, some people obviously go through, like Cam was asymptomatic with COVID itself, but then it's the post-viral fatigue. And if anyone knows post-viral fatigue, obviously it's me, having gone through and still going through the exact same thing. And the Patriots are saying he's not experiencing these things, but it's from this guy, when he broke down the tape, it's quite clear to see that Cam is dealing with brain fogginess. It's just difficult, and that's something I experience even when I play amateur football with the church team. So
it's
clear
because the number one thing, I suppose, is I've always whether it be this or whether it be association football, is trust your eyes. And if you trust your eyes, you're going to go a long way. And you look at Cam at the weekend, he was a pale imitation of himself, I'm afraid. So it has cost you the game. And I think that Ollie would feel hard done by if that was the case, because
for sure,
early. But at the same time, yes, outside of that performance, obviously playing Drew Brees, Tyler Lock has obviously come up trumps, and to be honest with you, it's sort of patched up what could have been a really real dismal display from you. But
I messaged Ollie on Sunday night, literally before I went to bed. I was like, well, I hope Tyler Lockett doesn't have a scintillating performance wasted on my team this week. And lo and behold, it's exactly what he did.
And that's not going to be 38 points from a guy like that. I mean, he did very well. But on the other side, Ollie's trucking on, and points coming from everywhere again. But this is the problem with this team at the moment, is that I think that when they've got particularly Ronald Jones, I think Edwards-Helaire might well retain some value, but I think Ronald Jones might not retain any value when Fournette comes back in properly. And this is but they've also got Robinson on the bench, and they Tyler Boyd on the bench. Guys like that. Brandon Cooks is still there, same resurgence we were talking about earlier in the week. So there's guys behind that they can use, but just not on obviously as good an offenses as those other guys. So it's a good win for Ollie. Yes, it's a fair matchup. Obviously, both carrying a player.
Yeah.
But that's it. I think that the thing we can say there is that's it. Ollie's just only got the more spread points there as opposed to you.
Very concentrated.
It's certainly quite bottom, but you're going to be pleased with what the guys you got from Detroit did. And Mike Davis will have better days, but maybe not for long if McCaffrey's on his way back. Yeah,
maybe one more if that. But I've got Antonio Brown to fill that gap. So.
Oh, there you go. Andrew Brees,
yes, who he had his two top receivers, I may well have played him over Cam, but I was never going to do that with both Thomas and Sanders out.
He's got a brutal next three games though. He's got actually.
Well, we'll see in the week previews that I've got the solution to that problem, but we'll come on to that later. Okay. Our next game then was Ixan against the Tugboats. Well, profiled to be an interesting game between two teams who are, I believe, in second place or tied second at least for their division. Really did not end up being that way, as the Gypsy King lives in Ixan this season, as he takes this one 77-52 a week after taking a game with only 60 points. Looking down the lineups, Ben Roethlisberger, he game managed his way to one of the 17 points. Giovanni Bernard getting the yearly spot start from Ixan came through with 16 points. Darren Waller got 11 points and a few other good performances, but that's really it for the good guys. On the other side of the ball for the Tuckfards, we know what they are. They rely on the big names. The big names, Mahomes and Hopkins, only got 14 points each, and it was an absolute horror show after that. even starting a player literally on the COVID list. So Ixan moves to 5-2 somehow. Meanwhile, the Tunkfiles fall to 3-4 after their positive start. History of this matchup all time, 8-10 in favour of the Tunkfiles. If Chris snakes you for the division, if Ben snakes you for the division, Chris, it's going to be an absolute swindle job.
Absolutely, I know. See, I know. Ben is the league's wagon hitcher in chief this year. I have to say, he's managed to get out of jail with his injuries. He managed to get out of jail this week. I mean, let's be honest. This is an abject performance from Phil, and this is not something we see from Phil year in, year out. But it does appear as though that he's wandering around New Zealand and enjoying his rugby, pretending he's a Kiwi for a bit. I even as you say, to the point of playing Emmanuel Sanders. I know that COVID doesn't exist in New Zealand anymore, thanks to St. Jacinda and her policies. But come on, rest of the world is still there. I don't really know where to go with that. Bearing in mind he had guys on the bench he could have played, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyway because it's just poor display from the whole team pretty much. And when you rely on two guys, that's what's going to happen. Mahomes is not going to score 30 points a week every week, as is proven there. Went to Denver and it snowed. Well, it's not going to happen, is it?
No.
On the other side, I mean, we talked about Ben's team last week. We weren't massively enamoured with it, and it's okay. Don't get me wrong. He's got Brandon Ayuk on the bench, who I think is going to be key to his next few weeks because again they seem to not have anyone to throw to again in San Francisco. But it's just Roethlisberger is okay. For fantasy purposes, he hasn't been unbelievably good for the last maybe 3 seasons. As you say, Giovanni Bernard and Darren Waller are the only two that have really come up there. Mark Andrews, who he would normally play, was on a bye, and obviously Gaskin as well. So you'd think that bringing those two guys back in next week would bump his numbers up by maybe 10, maybe 15 if it'll push. He's definitely trucking it along. But it's it in a very questionable way at the moment.
Yes, unsustainable way is definitely the way he's going at the moment. Our next game then is Ben Acestes against Pakistan. Ben Acestes, carrying a 3-game losing streak, was hoping to turn the train around against a Pakistan team that was coming off a win but had a very spotty start to the season. And, the bad times keep coming for Ben Acestes. Meanwhile, Pakistan has seemingly erased their horrendous start of the year with another win, 93-75. They go to 3-4. Ben Acestes fall to 2-5. Looking down the lineups for Pakistan, Ryan Tannehill notched 21 points. He's been a great addition for them. AJ Brown, his receiving mate, he also got 21 points in this one. TJ Hawkinson added on Sunday, mere hours before the game, chipped in with 12. Will Lutz got 11 as well, getting to that 93-point total. On the other side for Ben Acestes, it really has just seemed to fall apart from them after such a strong start. Josh Allen has not been the same of late, getting only 16 points against the Jets. Come on, man. Cole Beasley, he got 11. Evan Gordon he wasn't drunk in this one. He just about got 10. And the 49ers D really pinning up the side with 21 points there as well. History of this matchup all time. Ben Acestes are now 4-4 all time against Pakistan. It's a season where it started off as they've been quite hard done by, has rapidly descended into maybe they're not as good as we think they are. Meanwhile, for Pakistan, the opposite is true. It seems.
I'm afraid so. I think Ben Acestes are. We sometimes talk about like real life teams and how teams in our league sort of like the same, and they are the Bills. Not being funny here. They're the Bills. Everyone came at the beginning of the season thinking, "Oh wow, I see it. This team's great. It's great QBs, absolute stud." Where have they gone over the last few weeks?
It's crazy.
I know that it was all kind of based upon a really decent rushing attack, which Dalvin Cook hasn't been there. He's been unavailable for the last couple of weeks. Same with Taylor. He's on a bye this week, but like we said a couple of teams ago, it was your team. In fact, it wasn't for the special teams. That's it. They would have had an embarrassing defeat here because looking at that, only a couple of guys have scraped into the double figures. There's no touchdowns for Josh Allen at all against the Jets, which is very surprising. It's just a very average display that could have been, give or take another week, could have been even in the 60s or even the 50s. Pakistan on the other side, they really are on the way up, and say my early season excitement with them is coming home now. And you think of the guys that they've got to come back. Even this week with Jefferson off his bye, I don't think Michael Thomas is going to come back this week. There's Mixon as well to come back into that team, and it's pretty stacked, isn't it? Let's be honest.
They're looking good. Yeah,
that's it. Absolutely. They're riding that Titans wave, which is great. I don't think that's going to go away either. Amari's definitely going to be the number one, even in a massive loss. They scored 3 points, still got 80 yards, which is what you're looking for, really. There's plenty of volume. I love the pick up of Hawkinson, by the way, on the day. I did that earlier in the season. It paid off. They do hit him a lot. I think that if there's one team that's going to generate some momentum now, Pat does have it behind him, which is not something that we could have said 3 or 4 weeks ago. But then again, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we're talking about Dave sweeping the division. So, it's not good. And say two teams where the tides have definitely turned, in a massive way from where they were, even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Pakistan, Benassisi had their bye troubles as well. Pakistan have, I think, yet even to play a full-strength team this season. Week one would have been that, but obviously Thomas went down in that game. He is still without Michael Thomas. He was without Joe Mixon in this one, and Justin Jefferson was on a bye. So, it's scary to think it could only get better for Pakistan. And they're only one game behind in the division, unbelievably, despite how they started. So, quickly slipping away on the other hand for Benassisi. Ben says Carson was injured, otherwise that's like 85 points. I still don't think that disqualifies the game from being a gypsy win.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah. See, have you seen the rest of the team?
And Ollie says he's just catching up, but you talk about Ronald Jones. Well, you forget he's been replaced now with the $47 man himself. So yes, yet another running back in a committee who's only going to play while the other guy's injured and then fall into obscurity. It's like they're.
That's what it's about, isn't he?
He's just collecting them.
Loves a committee running back.
Exactly. He can have Mike Davis if he wants as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Get them all. It's like Pokemon. He's trying to get them all. Right, okay, our next game then. The Dream Team against UR Gold. The two division leaders of the Southampton and Winchester division faced off in this one, looking to stay ahead of teams hot on their heels. Dream Team took on UR Gold, and the Dream Team took it. They moved to 5-2 now, while UR Gold has lost the grip on their division, dropping 2 games in a row. This one went 110-84. Looking down the lineup, Russell Wilson, he's back. And as we know, if Russell Wilson's playing, the Dream Team are going to do well because he got 36 points from him. David Johnson got 12. Chris Godwin, despite fracturing his finger in the game, got 15 points. Kareem Hunt, another week without. Nick Chubb got 16. And then the special teams getting 10 apiece as well. Nice addition there. On the other side, Kyler Murray actually outdueled Russell Wilson en route to 43 points, and they took the game as well, don't forget. But only the Bears D would score double digits outside of the rest of the team. They got 12. Leading to the so-so point total for UR Gold. History of this matchup all time. The Dream Team are 4-2 all time against UR Gold. The Dream Team getting back on the horse after a few bad weeks. Finally.
Yes, very much so. And I think this is what we're going to expect for the rest of the year now. So, having Russell Wilson back is massive for this team, and you look at that, look at that stat line: 388 passing yards, three TDs, 3 picks, 84 rush for 35 points. I mean, that's pretty much baseline Russell Wilson right now.
Yeah.
And once you chip in a bit of David Johnson, let's assume that Dallas come out of the mire and start giving it to Zeke a bit more. Well, He's there. I know Godwin's going to be a bit of a miss now, but we forget he's now got Jarvis Landry on the bench, who's going to be the number one in Cleveland, whatever that's worth. Plus Kittle will have better days. So I think that team is exciting, and it has been since day one. Throughout the buys and a little bit of bad luck. Hasn't quite shown himself to be the contender that we thought he was, but I still think that he has one of the strongest rosters, starting rosters anyway, in the league. Whilst on the other side, I mean, now Kenyon Drake is down, and will be down for a little while. You don't have to rely entirely on Kyler Murray, which is what Arizona might do themselves. But it's very telling when. And anyone who knows me and anyone who's watched this pod for a long period of time will tell you that I'm not very good at maths at all, but I can tell you that more than half the points that were scored on that team were from him. That's very telling. Obviously, Joe Burrow will start this week, and he had a great game last week, but so he's just not in the same fantasy league anyway as Kyler Murray is. No. When you look down that list, the matchups weren't great, but at the same time, there's nothing that really makes you think, that's it, that's dangerous.
No, for sure, and but before you throw away Joe Burrow, he is on course to break the rookie yardage record, and I'm not gonna complain with that, but then again, he still needs to face some more stiff opposition for me to. Got to compete with the Steelers and the Ravens basically before I start. Yeah, for sure. So Dream Team a little safer for another week. Meanwhile, your gold, perhaps the low points against total against them is starting to show the cracks in the team.
Very.
Our next game then, it's your game, Chris. It's Parks and Rec against Forge Flies. The hottest team in the OC, Forge Flies, carrying a 4-game win streak into this one, took on Parks and Rec, who are on a 2-game slide of their own, looking to snap that, but they wouldn't. Now would get extended to 3 losses on the trot. Meanwhile, Forge Flies have now won 5 games in a row after an 0-2 start. 122-94 is how this one ended up. Forge Flies, Matt Ryan, the free agent acquisition, he got 20 points, but better days are ahead, you would think. Derrick Henry, he got 13. James Conner, 11. Christian Kirk, 16. Terry McLaurin, 15. Jamal Williams, supposed to start from him as well, 17. Even the kicker got 9, and the Bills D got 21. So basically double digits for every single player on the team. En route to that, nice point total. On the other side for Parks and Rec, Rodgers shrugged off the horrendous day he had in Tampa. He got 35 points in this one, but Aaron Jones did not play, well, for Green Bay. He played for Ross. Anyway, Alvin Kamara got 15 coming back from the bye. Randy Bullock got 10. The Chiefs D got 24. But 94 points, not enough. And Forge Flies took it. The history of this matchup all time, Forge Flies are now 6-4 against Coach 9. 5 games in a row, Chris. That is quite the streak your team is on right now.
I can't quite believe it either, to be honest. This is exactly the sort of stat lines that I like, and this for anyone's team that I like. If everyone's got double digits, damn Ryan suck up and say Tom Brady should just throw another TD for the extra point, to be honest. But to make it all, but I can't complain with that. That's a really good title, trucking along quite nicely. It's just humming. I've said since the start, really, the engine room is the 2 running backs and the QB. Everything else is a bonus. Terry McLaurin's he's not played. He's played Dallas, and they're not going to play a defense that bad every week. And Christian Kirk has been a really good addition too, but only against Dallas and Seattle. So we'll see how he gets on against other slightly more difficult opposition. But it's really pleasing to see. I've managed to try over the last 3 or 4 weeks, managed to try and recycle on the bench to get a bit more depth there as well. Mm-hmm. So DJ Moore is there, and he's now into gear and seemingly playing as I wanted him to when I drafted him. So yes, we'll see how we go with that. On the other side, yes, as it, Aaron Rodgers was fantastic. Kamara was, as you'd expect him to be. The guy. No touchdowns though. and the Chiefs dominated. But yeah, outside of that, big disappointment for Jones, Colt, Evans, and Diggs, especially Diggs against the Jets. Well, I had that down as a real good matchup for him. But yeah, I think having an unnecessary 0 for just because it didn't change anything in there, it doesn't ever sit well with me. I just don't know why anyone would do that. But yeah, at the same time, Ross's team will certainly have better days, especially when Aaron Jones comes back, because he will. And once he does that, then you can expect another 17 to 20 points a week, I guess.
For sure, yeah. The excuses are running out for Ross, though. I mean, yes, he's had a couple of bye weeks from the Packers and the Saints over these last couple of weeks, but like you say, other than Jones, everyone's back this week, and it's not quite gelling like it was at the start of it. But
for sure.
No, but like you said, your team on the other hand still rolling strong and doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon either.
I hope not.
Last game of the week then, it was Tom's Tyrants against Bucking the Trend. They finally did it. Coach Barnes got his first win of the season in week 6, but they needed a lot more than that if they wanted to keep their playoff hopes alive. Meanwhile, Bucking the Trend, they dropped a game last week too. They have been the definition of boom and bust this season. What side of the coin were they on this one? It was kind of in the middle, but more on the bust side. They only got 8-5. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants, you would not have thought this was a 1-5 team or an 0-5 team only 1 or 2 weeks ago. They got 134 points in this one. Looking down the lineup, it's that quarterback that they did sign, Justin Herbert. 44 points on the day, a large part of the reason why we're there rolling again. Todd Gurley, he's quietly been a very good running back, fantasy-wise, 20 points this week as well. Boston Scott was a great spot start for the injured Miles Sanders. He got 15. Keenan Allen got 13. Devontae Adams, boy did Tom's Tyrants need him. He got 32 points in this one, which erased a negative outing from Jerick McKinnon. On the other side of the ball, Carson Wentz, he got 32. It's a good stream for Bucking the Trend, but really it just kind of papered over the cracks as Tyreek Hill with 11 and Rams D with 19 were the only other players to get double digits. The history of this matchup all time between Tom's Tyrants and Bucking the Trend is now 1-1. Could Tom's Tyrants really be pull this off?
I think they've got a long way to go. It only takes a couple more losses to say no. But yeah, I mean, based on this performance, and I'm going to say this is his first "I told you so." That's it. Justin Herbert is fantasy goldmine. I think going forward he's going to be, he's not going to change, because you just look at him. The guy's 6'6" and he runs over DBs, like literally runs them over. So and the way that he's really kicked off this year is, I mean, I said playing the Jags, and the Jags just suck, but
he's been doing this all year long, though.
So, yes, exactly that. Against better opposition, he's no different. And I know Brady's on the bench there with 45 as well, and there's definitely a curve going up for them. But yeah, it's not like he's got nobody. Antonio Gibson's he's on the bench. He's playing again, playing Dallas. But as time's going on, they seem to be relying on him a little bit more. In the face of slightly better QB play, perhaps. But yeah, it's exactly what you want, and he carried a player. Jerick McKinnon is anyone who starts anyone on that committee knows what they're doing. It's the risk that they're taking. But yeah, I mean, say a very, very, very good week. Bearing in mind that's only we're one player down. As for Mike, Wentz and the Rams D, as you say, combined for 50 or just over 50 points. Other than that, it's nothing really too exciting. I mean, there's a fair bit of yardage there, but the one thing that you can look at there is Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs just hasn't looked as explosive as he has, from the first couple of weeks of the season. That's a massive, massive downer, really. I know he's come off a bye, he's playing Tampa, and Tampa are stout, but you'd like to think that a lot of his success going forward will be the foundations will start from there. But yeah, not having a running back or a running back that's in form, really hurts the team. And with those boom bust receivers, Metcalf and Hill particularly, you're gonna have to hope for big weeks to compete. But it wouldn't have made a difference this week. Tom was great, and yeah, I'm not going to go as far as saying that he's going to do anything special this year, but yeah, it's certainly helping now that he's got a QB that is exciting, which brings one of his receivers to life, and has probably the number one receiver in the league now as well in Devontae Adams.
Yeah, for sure. And it's quite crazy that Tom had 2 40-point quarterbacks. He didn't even play the best quarterback he could have played on his own team this week, as Brady, 44.86 on the bench.
It was great, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we say about Tom Brady, by the way? That's it. We said at the beginning of the season it took him a little while to get going, but wow, have they got going?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So that was the Week 7 slate of games. Then, so the standings, the midway point, have Bedernators atop the Southampton division. They overtook You Are Gold with their 3-game win streak. So yeah, You Are Gold. They are still on the same record, but behind by about 100, just under 100 points. Pakistan, they're up to 3 and 4 now, somehow hot on the heels of those two. Meanwhile, the Talkvards have slowly but surely slid to the bottom of this division, also at 3 and 4. Portsmouth division, you don't quite take it single-handedly, as Ixan did get a win as well, but you have got the points advantage by about 70 or so to head up that division at 5 and 2, bucking the trend, 2 games behind at 3 and 4, and Ben Necessity's almost a distant memory at 2 and 5, but behind that as well. And then for the Winchester division, the Dream Team leading at 5 and 2. Again, they are 2 games ahead of Parks and Rec and Gridiron Gang, and Tom's Torrents at 2 and 5 at the bottom there as well. So a bit of a gap for some division leaders, but still a long way to go. Looking at the breakdown, it was kind of another odd week because again, it was slightly better than last week, where if you scored 80, you would have got 7 wins. If you got what I got, which was, I've already forgotten, 98, that would have gotten you 7 wins as well. So a bit more of a respectable figure, but still a fair few of low scorers in there. The Dream Team at the top of this metric, still 8 and 3, just about. With Ollie though, hot on the heels, rolling off 2 9 and 2 weeks, 2 weeks in a row. With a 7 and 4 behind that. Parks and Rec, you can see they've gone from 5 weeks ago being 11 and 0, 8 and 3, 11 and 0 to 1 and 10, 1 and 10, 6 and 5. So the wheels really have fallen off there. My dad's team, despite being 2 and 5, their necessities, they are 4th in this still somehow, even though they had a 1 and 10 week last week and actually haven't had a winning breakdown week for 3 weeks now. So doing well to hold it up. And Chris, despite your 5-game winning streak, you are still only in 5th somehow, just above 500 overall. But you have rattled off 2 10-1 weeks in a row, which have knocked you up there.
I'll take that, yeah.
Yeah, at the bottom, Pakistan has obviously drastically changed. I think through the first 3 weeks of the season, they would have only had 1 win through the breakdown. They now have 24 since then. Over the 4 weeks. Tuckfards, though, the 2-man team, just above the bottom spot there, and Ixan, obviously the big headline of this group at 5 and 2. They've had 3 2 and 9 weeks in a row, and a 1 and 10 week 2 weeks before that. So they are really fortunate to be 5 and 2 right now. Looking at the coach ranking, Ross's team is on top, bucking the trend right behind, and Ixan, names you would expect, especially with Ixan, given the injury woes. My team, which was previously at the top, has quickly descended down the rankings, and we have some teams at the bottom like Bedernators and Tom's Torrents, which obviously have left a lot of points on the bench, but slowly but surely that's mattering less each week. Bringing us to the true rankings, which have the Dream Team on top, Parks and Rec just behind, which is a bit of I think a variance to where they probably should be at this point, but then you can't argue with Forge Fires, but Detonators right behind that, and then after that it obviously turns into a bit of a melting pot. So the only milestone to pick out this week was Coach Merritt. He got his 80th career loss, so well done, Phil. Way to stamp that by playing a player on the COVID list. So
I can't believe we did that.
Yeah, pretty crazy. On to our Week 8 slate then. So Week 8 is outside of the divisions again, so it's another intra-divisional week. We have Gridiron Gang against Bare Necessities, Bucking the Trend against Detonators, Parks and Rec against the Telkfars, Padistan against Tom's Tyrants, UR Gold against Forge Flyers, and Exxon against the Dream Team. What do you think should be the marquee matchup this week, Chris?
Well, there is a Stubbs Bowl in this, which is something that we see every year.
Yeah.
And usually it's at Wembley, but it's not. It's not this year. It's about this time of the year, isn't it? So.
Yeah. No, it's in fact it was Ross and Jen's wedding anniversary 2 days ago, and I went to the NFL game the day after their wedding, which would obviously have been yesterday as well. So it would have been exactly this time of year.
Unbelievable. So we could go with that. We could go with the joint top of the Portsmouth division versus the Dream Team, but I'm not too sure on that one, to be honest. I think that's going to be a bit of a beatdown. So yeah, I think there's not too many close games in there. So as a result of that, I think we'll go with. But Pakistan Tom's Tyrants is the one that's
a got a bit of intrigue to it. I think so. Let's go with it. Let's roll with it. So Pakistan against Tom's Tyrants is this week's marquee matchup.
Yeah, man.
Pakistan against Tom's Tyrants in marquee matchup week 8 in the LOC. 2 weeks ago, these two would have been probably in the marquee matchup, but they would be playing each other, but for very different reasons, as they would have only had one win between them, and their season would be on a lifeline. How much changes in a couple of weeks? Well, Pakistan, they're at 3-4, only a game behind in their division after a 2-game win streak. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants, not only did they get their first win, they got another to boot last week. They're now 2-5 and looking for a last gasp chase in the playoffs as well. The projections in this one, a slightly low score at the moment, 87-87 basically, but the edge is to Pakistan. Looking down the lineups in terms of changes, Justin Jefferson comes in for Pakistan over Deebo Samuel, I think. And then Jamisal Hasty, I think I said that right, he's in the lineup too from the waiver wire. Unclear if Thomas Mixon will play at this point. They could both be out for another week. Deontay Johnson questionable at the moment with his injuries, and Deebo Samuel is already declared out. On the other side of the ball for Tom's Tyrants at the moment, I believe they are unchanged, but you would probably figure... I don't know, they may not have anywhere to go. Antonio Gibson on a bye, Miles Sanders questionable, could miss another week, and Allen Robinson is currently in the concussion protocol as well. Would not expect him to suit up at the moment. History of this matchup, all time, Tom's Tyrants are 3-3 against Pakistan. Chris, please preview the game. The monkey.
Yeah, this is the one. I mean, now looking down, I'm pleased that we picked this because there is plenty of intrigue there. So let's start with the QBs, and so I think both have got. If it's not snowing up on the top of the mountain, it's a reasonably good matchup. Both of them. I think that obviously Tannehill is rolling at the moment, especially when he's got AJ Brown there on the same team. That really helps. But looking down the rest of the team, it's a little bit spotty, to be honest. As I said, Montgomery hasn't been on it all year. New Orleans is reasonably stout against the run. You've got Amari in there playing in Philly away, but the Cowboys, they haven't got anything going forward. And I don't know if Andy Dalton's got the sense knocked back into him now, but if it's Danucci coming and playing, then I don't like the sound of that. Justin Jefferson coming in playing Green Bay, you'd like to think he's going to get some use there. And then after that, the Colts playing in Detroit. They are the number one ranked defense in fantasy this year, and Justin Tucker, who is, I don't think he's missed a field goal in about 4 years by the sounds of it, playing in Pittsburgh. So I think that's their two relatively solid starts. But there is that flex spot in there, and I know he's a Tevin Coleman owner, and I know that gives him a little bit of a play as to who to go for. But I look at Nelson Aguilar on the bench, and I think to myself, well, he's actually been quite productive in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So perhaps that might be the way to go. That's it. That San Francisco murky backfield, especially on the other side, as McKinnon's on the other side, could be a little bit difficult. As for Tom, he's going to keep on rolling, I think. Gurley's being used in the Gurley type way. Obviously, if Boston Scott doesn't play, it doesn't matter because Sanders will come back in. But if he's there, he was last week, and they're playing Dallas, which, as we know at the moment, is excellent. Keenan Allen's looked a completely different Keenan Allen since Herbert's been the guy there. Devontae Adams played Minnesota, who suck defensively. And then you've got McKinnon playing Seattle, who are just as bad. Younghoe Koo's been the man on the kickers, and Browns are playing the Raiders. And well, what version of the Raiders are we going to get this week? I do like Tom's team better. I have to say, I think that he's got more components in which to score. I think that Pat at the moment has an avenue to win in for sure, but he's going to rely on Montgomery and particularly Cooper and whoever starts in the flex having a good day, and Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson type things and scoring on a massive play. So he's obviously had a decent bedrock with the kicker and the DST. I'm just not quite sure by how much. So I'm going with Tom on this one. I think he's going to keep on rolling. But that's by no means to say that Pat should be written off, but he's just got to get his team selection right, especially if he has some of the big players come back this week.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the same reason I'm going to go for Tom's Tyrants. It's just because I said it in the review. It's week 8. Pakistan is still unable to field a full strength side. It's a shame, but because they're so close to having it, but it just seems to either keep evading them or keep getting delayed, like with Thomas getting that hamstring injury in training after the high ankle sprain. But no, I think it's hard to look past Tom's Tyrants this week. They are not quite at full strength. Obviously, Allen Robinson's going to be out, and they do have a player on bye, but they're more or less there because they've got Boston Scott. So it's going to be an either or, you would think, with him or Miles Sanders. The only spot that you said you don't like is Jarrett McKinnon. I wonder if there'll be some sort of waiver wire move, perhaps, possibly to correct that as well. But yeah, just looking at the names they've got and some of the matchups they have, it's hard to look past Tom's Tyrants for this one. Our next game then, it is You Are Gold against Forge Flyers. You Are Gold and Forge Flyers are in a fight for the division lead at the moment. Forge Flyers is leading theirs with a 5-2 record and a 5-game win streak. Meanwhile, You Are Gold has lost grip on theirs with the 2-game slide. They now are in second on points, and another loss is projected, and another win for Chris, 85-76. Looking down the lineups, Lamar Jackson returns from bye for Forge Flyers, so he goes back into the starting lineup. Henry Ruggs comes into the starting lineup, I believe, for Terry McLaurin, who's on bye. Other than that, DJ Monstery also comes in for Christian Kirk. On the other side of the ball, Joe Burrow's obviously in for Kyler Murray. He's on a bye. Anybody else who's moved in? I think Marquise Brown, yes, he would have come in off the bye as well for the injured Kenyon Drake. He's on bye anyway, but could miss a few weeks on top of that. I think Evan Ingram's also playing possibly as well. He may have played him last week, I'm not sure. Anyway, history of this matchup all time. Forge Flyers are 1-3 against Cash for Gold. It looks like you're facing a decidedly weaker team, Chris. It could easily be another win in a row for your side.
It's certainly possible, Nath. We saw last week what the real flaw of the team was. I think for You Are Gold, and outside of Kyler Murray, that's it. There wasn't anything to shout about. I like Joe Burrow, and I think that Joe Burrow is going to be a really good, QB going forward. Decent NFL QB going forward, and obviously fantasy-wise this year, he's been pretty serviceable. But he's going to go and play Tennessee at home, and I think that Tennessee, obviously offensively, have been really good this year, but defensively have been underrated. They do give away quite a lot of points, however. So I think that although he may get picked a couple of times, I think he's definitely going to put up a decent score. And outside Adam Thielen, am I particularly worried about anybody else? Really affected. I know Jonnu Smith's in there and he's had good weeks, but now that Corey Davis and particularly AJ Brown is back, and Anthony Firsley was excellent when he played, I think that takes away some of his targets, especially in the red zone. Marquise Brown hasn't been the guy that everyone expects him to be this year. Obviously, Lamar hasn't thrown nearly as much, and I think against Pittsburgh, he's not going to do that either. I'm a little bit concerned about how he's going to get on in this game, but I think that quality is quality, and that'll come through. But unfortunately, that might well be through the ground and not necessarily through the air. Even the Bears D have been a stalwart for him. I played New Orleans this week, and they're no slouch. Drew Brees, even in his old age, is still to be contended with, and Evan Ingram against Tampa, I don't like that either. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a slog. Whilst for me, I've got my own bye week problems. I got three receivers out on byes, McLaurin and Kirk being two of them, have been really good for me over the last couple of weeks. But I've still got Derrick Henry, I've still got Connor on these. He's playing Baltimore, and that's going to be a challenge. But DJ Moore comes in a great matchup, as does Ruggs in a great matchup. If Williams doesn't play, then Scotty Miller comes in against the Giants, and he's going to be the slightly whiter version of Chris Godwin this week. And I'm playing the Bills against New England, who we spoke about earlier on. I said Cam's having his troubles, and if it's not him, it's going to be Stidham, and you'd like to think that he would be, not as good. So, yeah, I think that I'm feeling pretty good about this, especially if Jamal Williams is playing against Minnesota and not Aaron Jones. So, even more so if that's the case. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to pump for me this week, and yeah, those strange things have happened. I'm 1-3 against UR Golf for a reason, and they do seem to be my bogey team. So, yeah, could be an odd one.
Yeah, and you do make a good point. UR Gold obviously not at full strength, but you certainly not at full strength either. But your trio of Henry, Connor, and Moore, you've got to think, like you say, Connor, he's playing Baltimore, and even Jackson's playing Pittsburgh, and we've seen Jackson has been quite the same force that he was last season. So, but Henry and Moore, you'd certainly expect to perform, and then, like you say, you probably expect something from Ruggs and Williams as well. But on the other side, it is a complete lottery if anyone is going to turn up, or if no one will. So it's so up in the air what UR Gold are at the moment, but it's quite clear, despite obviously some key missing people for you, that your side is definitely better poised, shall we say, to take this one. Our next game then is Ixan against the Dream Team. Ixan take on the Dream Team, 2 5-2 teams taking on each other. One is tied to lead a division, and the other is leading the division. Who will win? Well, Ixan are coming off of 2 fortunate wins. Meanwhile, the Dream Team have, after going undefeated for 4 weeks, lost the last 2, but they picked up one last week as well. They are currently projected to win this one a staggering 102-78. Looking down the lineups for the Dream Team, Jarvis Landry comes into the lineup. He is now the de facto number 1 for the Browns. Chris Godwin, he moves to the bench. He will be out 1 week with that fractured finger, but should hopefully be back after that. And Damian Harris also comes into the lineup for David Johnson, who was on a bye. On the other side for Ixan, it's AFC North quarterback, but not the one they'd been using before. Baker Mayfield takes over for Ben Roethlisberger. Myles Gaskin comes in off of his bye, as does Mark Andrews. Brandon Ayuk comes into the starting lineup as well. Moving to the bench are Darren Waller, Chris Carson, and I think the other guy they started has been dropped. So, history of this matchup all time, Ixan are 4-7 against the Dream Team. Is this the week where Ixan are finally undone by a team that actually scores points?
Yeah, I think I think so. Yes, I said Ben should really change his team name to, I know something about wagon hitching, because the last 2 or 3 weeks has been just absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, I really do. I think that I think this week they are going to get found out a little bit, but they do have some guys in good matchups. Not going to turn around this. So they're not. I think Baker against the Raiders is a good matchup for him, because he's coming off a really good fantasy week last week. Fulgham against Dallas is equally as good, and I think Ayuk against Seattle is too. So, they got 3 three teams that are three guys that are playing against good, poor defenses. But at the same time, do I have faith in Giovanni Bernard? No. I've got more faith in Mark Andrews, but against that defence, it's going to be more difficult, that's for sure. And Gaskin, who knows what you're going to get out of him? You could either get a lot or you're going to get nothing, especially if Tua's playing. Who knows if they're even going to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And Patriots playing Buffalo in Buffalo, if Josh Allen goes off even just a little bit, that's not worth playing. On the other side, you can't not the names there. Alone are just so much better. So you look at Wilson against San Francisco. It doesn't matter really who he's playing. He's going to be great. That's it. Zeke against Philly. Well, if there's no way out, then they're going to go through him. Same with Kareem Hunt. He's the guy there now. Jarvis is the number one receiver. And what we like to see, always like to see that, is playing the number one receiver against the QBs the other side.
And the running back too.
It evens it out, and the running back as well. It evens it out. So that's always a bonus. Kittle's playing Seattle in the same game as Ayuk, but I think Kittle is a much more dominant option, especially in the red zone. Eagles are playing Dallas. That defense there, I don't think they have to be good to play against whatever QB they're going to win out this week, whether it be Dalton or anyone otherwise. And they have the number 3 kicker in fantasy. We have forgotten about that. Our boy Rodrigo Blankenship. That's it. He's gone straight into the team there. That's it. Playing Detroit, I think that's going to be an underrated amount of points going in there. So, look, that's it. And you can play anyone in that flex position if you want to, but Damon Harris is okay, but they have to stay on the field. For sure, it's the dream team. I don't think that Ben's going to be able to get out of jail on this one. They're just too good. And they've been good all year, and that's not going to stop this week.
No, I think, look, we joke about Ben getting embarrassing points and still winning. He has been stitching this team together on the fly, and he's probably done better than most would have, if that was the case. But
can't knock it, but, you played anybody else any given week, he's getting bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And the quarterback isn't established. I know all too well what that feels like as well. So teams like this, it is just, you do struggle to get a ceiling just because of what you're having to do to field a team. Meanwhile, on the other side, as you say, look, it's not all rosy with everything. The name value has arguably been more appealing than what's actually been produced, but in some cases anyway. But you can't look past the dream team this week. They should take this one easily. Our next game then, it is Gridiron Gang against Bare Necessities. It's the Stubbs Bowl in Week 8 of the LOC season. Gridiron Gang take on Bare Necessities. Two teams looking to keep up in the playoff race. Gridiron Gang at 3-4. Bare Necessities at 2-5 on a 4-game losing streak. But that's projected to change here, as they are expected to take this one 101-98. Looking down the lineup, Teddy Bridgewater comes into the fold for Gridiron Gang over Cam Newton after his poor week. Robert Woods comes back into the lineup for Will Fuller, who goes on to bye, but as yet unchanged. We'll be hoping McCaffrey misses one more week, so they get one more week of Mike Davis. On the other side of the ball for Bare Necessities, Jonathan Taylor comes back into the lineup. He was on bye last week over Devontae Freeman. Dalvin Cook in the lineup at the moment. Remains to be seen if he will play as yet, but he could be back from his groin injury in favour of Melvin Gordon. Other than that, I think they are unchanged. History of this matchup all time. Gridiron Gang are 6-13 against Bare Necessities. Which Stubbs will take the Stubbs Bowl this time round, Chris?
It's a tale of two defences. I want to start with that. Look, in a game where you're playing Seattle in Seattle and you are the 49ers who haven't been that good all year, why on earth continue to persevere with playing that defense? I know they did well last week, but they were playing a Corona-filled Cam, right? That's it. If that's got 1 or 2 points written all over it, that is what it is. I know they're going to get a couple of picks off Russ because that's what happens. Russell Wilson intercepts, throws a couple of picks, but he's also going to throw 5 touchdowns and run for 1, right? So to get them out of there now. You've got the Chargers playing Denver. Denver were awful last week, offensively, absolutely awful, and I think that they're not going to get any better in a week. So, and the Chargers make the mockery of some better team. In fact, they make mockery of the Chiefs every time they play them. So, that's going to be some good score, and that's where it starts. We look at the QBs. You brought Teddy in. That's really good. I like that. Playing Atlanta. That's it. They are porous. I think that's going to be a good matchup for him. Josh Allen playing New England at home. What version of Josh Allen are we going to get? Are we going to get the explosive weeks 1 to 4, or are we going to get the not so explosive, last 3 weeks? Be very interesting to see. I don't think though that they're going to be able to contain him all game, but they'll give me. We know what Belichick's like. He's going to be able to scheme for him. Running backs, that's it. Mike Davis, that's it. If he plays, I think that's a plum matchup. I haven't been too keen on Henderson. Obviously, he's in that committee. Jonathan Taylor coming in playing Detroit should be okay. You've got Swift and Golladay playing against the Colts, which is a bit
not
down.
Ideal. Yeah,
not ideal. But you do have Lockett again playing San Francisco. Another reason why not to play that defense. And Robert Woods, who's been solid and consistent throughout the year. Tyler Bass just came off a 23-point week, so even if there's a bit of regression there, that's good. I think though that those 3 receivers, or those 2 receivers, and Dalvin Cook coming back in is key. Dalvin Cook's a massive shot in the arm if he plays. Kelsey playing the Jets should be I mean, I don't even want to begin to know how many points are going to be scored in that game because it's going to be a lot. And Beasley does have that value with Josh Allen as well. So that could well be the key thing here, is that it's your 3 receivers against, Beasley, Kelsey, and Cook. If Taylor chips in, that's great. I think that he probably will. I'm not sure we're going to get like Henderson, and the defenses are going to be a real key one because there could be a 15-point swing in that. This is probably the tightest one, and the projections show it to be tight as well. Obviously, if Cook doesn't play, then Melvin Gordon does, and it's not quite as good. So I think I'm probably going to go with. I'm going to go with Dave's team but it could be yours, Nathan. It could be yours by 5 or 10 points. But I hope that the Lions have a better day against the Colts than I think they're going to.
Yeah, no, it's similar to last week, I think, with my team again against Bedenators, where it could have fallen either way. Had I got a good quarterback performance, it would have gone my way, but it didn't. And this week, again, you're right, it's on the fence. And again, I think I'm going to lean to my opposition because while there's definitely some question marks, where it be Cook or it be Allen, what version of him we will see. I don't know. We saw in the all-time head-to-head 6-13 in favour of my dad. My dad's team just seems to show up for these games. There is certainly players that you can see there that will absolutely do that for one reason or another. So, my team, while I'm kind of holding it together, really starting to feel the effects of, certainly if Davis does step out, starting to feel the effects of losing Barkley and Eckler earlier on. So I have got if Crowder plays, I like that because they're obviously going to be throwing all day, playing chase up on the Chiefs, so he would probably come straight into my lineup. But other than that, I don't really have much else to turn. As you say, a couple of bad matchups for my Lions guys. So yeah, I'll go with bare necessities as well. Next game then, penultimate game of the week. It's bucking the trend against the Detonators. The newly anointed leader of the Southampton Division's The Detonators faces Bucking the Trend, who need to get the wins now to keep up in their division and the wildcard race. Projections do not have it going that way though, as The Detonators slate to win 94-87. Looking down the lineups, for The Detonators, Derek Carr comes in over Deshaun Watson. He's on a bye. Tyler Boyd comes in over Odell Beckham Jr. obviously tore his ACL. And other than that, I believe they're unchanged at the moment. Julio Jones questionable with a hip injury, so I'll want to keep an eye on that. It is bye-week hell for them, though, looking at that bench. On the other side of the ball, backing the trend, sticking with Carson Wentz for the moment at least, Leonard Fournette comes into the lineup for the first time since he got injured. And Robbie Anderson. He must have already been in the lineup, actually, so I think that's probably the only change there. History of this matchup all time, the Detonators are 1-0 against bucking the trend. So, Chris, take it away.
I love all of Mike's matchups this week. There's not very many times I can say that. But I love them all. And you just look down there, so there's just there's an abundance of point scorers there. So you've got Wentz playing Dallas, which is just it's 3 points at the moment. Same as running backs versus Cleveland. Same as receivers. I mean, that Tyreek Hill versus the Jets is just going to be like playing. Yeah, it's like men versus boys there. Metcalf against San Francisco. You like to think that'd be a bounce back game. And Anderson against Atlanta, same thing. Same thing. That's it. They're vulnerable. And against, especially the Rams in Miami as well. Tua's first game. Who knows what's going to happen there? But you'd expect him to, at least get intercepted once and get sacked a few times as well. But we'll see. On the other side, I like Derek. The pick of Derek Carr this week is a clever one. Obviously, Cleveland got rinsed by Joe Burrow last week. Derek Carr's been sneaky good all year, fantasy wise anyway. And I think he's got over 20 points almost all the games he's played. I'm going to bring Tyler Boyd in. Let's say it again. He showed that he's a number one guy there now. Play Ronald Jones against Leonard Fournette. Do they going to cancel each other out? I think they probably will. Julio's questionable, but that's not necessarily because he's injured. That's because they want him to play the weekend. But Carolina have been decent as well, albeit they're going to have to throw a few times there, I think, as well, because they're going to be playing, if not from behind, certainly in a close fought game. Clyde against the Jets. Bucker against the Jets for the same reason. I mean, say Bucker can set the record for extra points scored this week. And the Saints playing Chicago. Well, we saw what Nick Foles was like on Monday, and he wasn't that good. So yeah, I think that Mike certainly got more in his team than the 86 points that he's projected. Well, I don't think Ollie perhaps does, and that's why they're going to meet in the middle. And I think I'm going to go with Mike this week because I love his matchups.
I think you're right. Look, we've been saying all season long, Mike's team is the definition of boom and bust. When the matchups aren't there, they're going to bust. When they are there, what are they going to do? They're going to boom. It's so easy to see where the points are going to come from this week. And some of them are going to be at the detriment to Ollie, because you figure Fournette as well was going to outplay Ronald Jones.
You think
it's
so?
just
Yeah.
the changing of the tide. And Ollie doesn't have anywhere to go, really. He could start T. Higgins, but he's already playing Tyler Boyd as well. I think... but Ollie's done a great job of turning it around from 1-3 to leading the division, but I don't think it's a team that you'd say, well, it's smooth sailings there on and out, and they could run into a buzzsaw and bucking the trend here, and I think, I agree, they probably will. Our last game of the week, then, it is Parks and Rec against the Tugfarts. Parks and Rec face the Tugfarts, two teams sorely in need of turning their teams around, and quickly. They are both 3-4, carrying multiple games losing streaks, and the season could quickly slip away if things don't change. Parks and Rec currently projected to win this one, and there's got to be some bye weeks or injuries because it is currently sitting as 89-64. Looking down the lineups, we'll start with Parks and Rec side. So unchanged at the moment. Obviously, we don't know if Aaron Jones will be back. Killian Cole is on a bye, so you'd figure they'll probably pivot to Le'Veon Bell, perhaps, for the first time since his trade. Other than that, unchanged. On the other side, Tugfarts obviously unchanged at the moment, but they're going to be without one of their two key players, DeAndre Hopkins. He is on a bye. Emmanuel Sanders should probably still be on the COVID list, but I'm not actually sure if he tested positive or not, so possibly could come off, but not expected at the moment. Mark Ingram as well, not expected for this week either. So you would figure either Juju, or Jimmy Graham would come in there as well. History of this matchup all time, the Tugfarts are 3-5 against Ross. Chris, last game of the week, what do you think?
I think this is going to be the easiest one so far. I mean, if you bring, let's say that he has to bring Juju and Jimmy Graham in, right? He has to.
Yeah.
Even then, I mean, if you think Juju's playing the Ravens and he hasn't been great, and Jimmy Graham's playing New Orleans and he hasn't been great either, And if that's the case, then outside of Patrick Mahomes and possibly the Packers D, I absolutely hate the skill player matchups there. Oh my word. Singletary against New England, no. Claypool against Baltimore, no. That's it. Peterson against Indianapolis, definitely not. And Mahomes against the Jets, which, he could score 50 points, right? He could probably score 60. It's the kind of game that would happen.
So you're telling me the Tuck Pads will get 70 points on the week if that happens?
That's possibly it. And I wouldn't even be surprised if 2/3 of the points came from Mahomes. Wouldn't even be surprised. Because other than that, the team that he's put together there is not good. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't change the team, to be quite honest. That's the sort of where we're at right now. On the other side, Ross is potentially without Jones and certainly without Keelan Cole, obviously on a bye. So who does he bring in? Well, you may bring Hunt Henry against the.
I think it's Le'Veon Bell. No, it's got to be Le'Veon Bell.
And Le'Veon Bell. So you bring two of them in if they're injured, and possibly Lev Bell as well, right? So if that's the case, obviously Rodgers has got a really good matchup against Minnesota, as we talked about earlier on with the receivers that he's got. But everything against the Giants, Tampa will be really good, but the Giants have been pretty good on defense as well. Same as Diggs, the Josh Allen thing. Kamara against Chicago, it's a tough place to go, especially away. They've stifled a lot of good teams there. The Chiefs team playing the Jets, and Randy Bullock is the number one fancy kicker. Who knew? So good for him. That's it. So I think even if these two teams probably played, both. But if Phil didn't play Hopkins, didn't play Sanders, and Ross didn't play Jones, didn't play Cole, they probably Ross would probably still win. I think on the strength of Rodgers, the Chiefs D, and one of the receivers, or Alvin Kamara having a massive day. Otherwise, Phil's got nothing at all, and that's quite sad.
It is quite sad, and we were somewhat surprised to see Phil jump out with the 3 wins pretty early on, but I don't think it's surprising that they've slid back pretty quickly, because as you've said, they are a 2-man band. It's going to be a 1-man band this week, and Ross's team, they've had a few bad weeks, through buys and whatnot, but looking at the team there's no reason to think that they're not going to easily take care of business here against the Tuckfards. So that's where we'll go there as well. So that is the games previewed for the week. We will now dip into Debate Corner. I've got a call for John Burkout first. John, where are you? There he is. Never too far away. Thank you, John. So this week's Debate Corner, I thought it was. So I think last week the discussion was which of the division leading teams is most likely to win the regular season division. Well, this week we're flipping that on its head. Which of the 4 current playoff seeded teams will be out of the picture, we think, by week 15. So that will obviously be week 1 of the playoffs. So current playoff standings are Forge Flyers, the Dream Team, Ixan in the Wild Card, and the Detonators. Which of those teams do we think will not be in the picture come week 15?
It will almost certainly be Ixan.
Yeah.
Because he played the Dream Team this week. I think that cannot be a game that they can win. It takes you a goal to potentially win against me. It takes, to be able to do that. But I think that maybe not come the next week, but certainly maybe the 2 weeks or 3 weeks after. I think that's where we'll see the tide turn potentially. But I can't see Ben winning this week, and I can't see him without it unless Christian McCaffrey comes back and does Christian McCaffrey things the week after and the week after that. Having that much quality on that team. So I think that's a pretty easy one for Debate Corner this week. No debate needed.
No, well, but are there any other teams out of the other? So that wasn't listed to which one. It's which of all the 4 playoff teams do you think will not be in the picture? It's certainly an easier answer.
Yes, I know. I think so. I think the Dream Team are rolling. I think my team is rolling. I think Pedena is certainly rolling. You see the points that they've had scored against them, crikey, and yet they're still where they are. So yeah, I of those three teams that currently head in the division, yeah, I think come the next week. I mean, you all got a chance against me, no doubt. Everyone's got a chance against each other on any given day, but just based on where Viv's team is in comparison to where Ben's team is on the same record, it's night and day. So.
Well, I think, Ixan certainly by week 15, I wouldn't expect them to be in the race. They do have the 5 wins, which is, wins are what counts ultimately. But and as you say, when McCaffrey comes back, wins you would think would come a bit easier. Not that they've been particularly difficult the last couple of weeks, just down to their opposition. But I still think Benedettas are the one that you circle and say that wouldn't surprise you to see them not in the picture in week 15, not necessarily due to any fault of their own. You mentioned points they've conceded, and that's certainly been the reason that they've been held back so far at 4-3. You got to look at their division though, because UR Gold is also 4-3. It can only take 1 or 2 wins, and that's all it takes sometimes, or losses. And then Pakistan, we can't forget about them anymore because they're only a game behind. So they're the other team. I think, like you say, for your team, you've got Ben next to you, but you've got that 5 wins and you're rolling right now, so you would think at worst you would have the wild card, and then Viv is 2 games ahead in the Winchester division, and you don't look at any of those teams and think probably they're not going to be able to put together a good enough run to make up that difference, perhaps. So there you go. Okay then, so that is it for the Bet Corner and this week's show. So midweek show. We hope to continue with the midweek shows as we always do. Thank you for joining, Chris. Always good to see you.
Yep, that was good to be here.
Good, glad to hear it. So all that's left to say is goodbye. We'll be back next week around this time. Good luck with your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.